Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, way out near a huge dark forest, lived a poor woodcutter. He lived with his wife, and guess what? They had 2 children. The boy was named Hansel, and the girl, her name was Gretel. Now, they were so poor, they barely had anything to eat or drink. And one time, things got really bad. There was hardly any food anywhere in the whole land. The poor woodcutter couldn't even find enough food for one day. So, one night, as he was lying in bed, thinking, and tossing and turning, he let out a huge sigh. He whispered to his wife, "Oh, what are we going to do? We can't even feed our own children. There's nothing left, not even for us." "Listen, husband," his wife, who was actually their stepmother and, maybe not very nice, whispered back, "I have an idea. Early tomorrow morning, we'll take the children deep into the forest where the trees are super thick. We'll build them a little fire, give them each a tiny piece of bread, and then we'll go off to work and just leave them there. They'll never find their way home again, and then we'll be rid of them." "No, wife," gasped the man. I can't do that. How could I ever leave my children all alone in the forest? Wild animals would come and gobble them up." "Oh, you silly man," she snapped. "If we don't, then all 4 of us will starve to death. You might as well start building our coffins now." And she argued and nagged until finally, sadly, he agreed. "But, oh, my poor children," he whispered, his heart breaking. Now, Hansel and Gretel, they hadn't been able to sleep either. Their tummies were rumbling with hunger. And guess what? They heard every single word their stepmother said. Gretel started to cry, big fat tears rolling down her cheeks. "Oh, Hansel," she sobbed, "it's all over for us." "Shh, Gretel, shh," whispered Hansel. "Don't worry, I'll think of something, I promise." And when their parents finally fell asleep, snore, Hansel quietly got up. He put on his little coat, tiptoed to the back door, and slipped outside. Whew! The moon was shining so brightly. And see those little white pebbles in front of the house? They sparkled like tiny silver coins. Hansel bent down and stuffed his pockets full of them. Then he tiptoed back inside. "Don't worry, dear little sister," he whispered to Gretel. "Go to sleep now. Everything will be okay." And he snuggled back into his bed. The next morning, even before the sun peeked over the trees, crash, bang! The stepmother came in. "Get up, you sleepyheads!" she shouted. "We're going into the forest to chop wood." Then she gave each of them a tiny piece of bread. She said, "This is for your lunch, and don't eat it before then. It's all you're getting." Gretel carefully tucked her bread under her apron, because Hansel's pockets, well, they were already bulging with pebbles. Off they went, all 4 of them, towards the forest. After they'd walked a little way, Hansel kept stopping and looking back, and stopping and looking back. His father said, "Hansel, what are you looking at? Hurry up, or you'll trip." "Oh, father," said Hansel, "I'm just looking at my little white kitten. See? She's sitting on the roof to wave goodbye to me." "You silly boy," snapped the stepmother. "That's not your kitten. That's just the sun shining on the chimney." But of course, Hansel wasn't really looking at a kitten. Oh no, Every time he stopped, he was secretly taking a shiny white pebble from his pocket and plink, dropping it on the path. When they got right into the very, very middle of the forest, the father said, "Okay, kids, go find some sticks. We need to build a fire to keep warm." So Hansel and Gretel gathered up twigs and branches, enough to make a big pile, like a mini mountain. They lit the fire, and when the flames were leaping up, 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 the stepmother said, "Now you children lie down by the fire and rest. We're going to chop some wood. When we're done, we'll come back and get you." So Hansel and Gretel sat by the fire. Around lunchtime, they each ate their little piece of bread. They thought their father was nearby in the woods because they kept hearing a thwack, thwack, thwack sound like an axe. But really, it was just a dead branch hanging on a tree, blowing back and forth in the wind. Creak, thwack, creak, thwack. They waited and waited and waited. Soon, their eyelids got heavy, heavier, and thump, they fell fast asleep. When they finally woke up, it was pitch black night. "Oh no!" cried Gretel, starting to sniffle. "How will we ever get out of this spooky forest?" But Hansel hugged her. "Wait a little while, Gretel," he said. "Wait until the moon comes up. Then we can find our way home easy peasy." And when the big round moon climbed high into the sky, its light shone down. Hansel took his little sister by the hand, and guess what? The little white pebbles he had dropped, they were shining like little stars on the path, showing them the way. Click-clack, click-clack, went their shoes on the path. They walked all night long, and just as the sun was starting to say good morning, they saw it, their father's house. Knock, 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 they knocked on the door. When the stepmother opened it and saw Hansel and Gretel, she put on a fake surprised face. "Oh, you naughty children! Why did you sleep so long in the forest? We thought you were never coming home again." But their father, oh, he was so happy to see them. His heart had been breaking since he had left them alone in the forest. Well, not too long after that, things got bad again. Really, really bad. There was hardly any food, again. One night, the children heard their stepmother whispering to their father in bed. "Everything's gone. We only have half a loaf of bread left. After that, nothing. We have to get rid of the children. This time we'll take them even deeper into the forest, deep so they'll never ever find their way back. There's no other choice." The man's heart felt like a heavy stone. Oh, it would be better to share our very last crumb with our children. But the stepmother wouldn't listen. No, sir. She just scolded him and grumbled at him. And well, if you say yes once, sometimes you have to say yes again, even if you don't want to. So he agreed. "But, oh, my poor, poor children," he whispered, his heart breaking. Now Hansel and Gretel, they weren't asleep either. They'd heard everything again. When their parents were snoring, Hansel got up. He was going to sneak out and get more pebbles. But oh no, the stepmother had locked the door. Hansel couldn't get out. He comforted his little sister. "Don't cry, Gretel," he whispered. "Go to sleep. We'll be okay. You'll see." And early the next morning, yank, the stepmother pulled the children out of bed. She gave them each an even tinier piece of bread than before. And on the way to the forest, Hansel secretly crumbled his bread in his pocket. Every few steps he'd stop and sprinkle, sprinkle, throw a few crumbs on the ground. "Hansel, what are you dawdling for?" called his father. "Why are you always looking behind you?" "Oh, Father," Hansel answered, "I'm just looking at my little pigeon. See, it's sitting on the roof to wave goodbye to me." "You silly goose," snapped the stepmother. "That's not your pigeon. That's just the morning sun shining on the chimney pots." But of course, Hansel wasn't really looking at a pigeon. Oh no! Hansel kept right on, stopping and sprinkling his breadcrumbs all along the path. The woman led the children far, far, far into the woods, to a place they had never, ever been in before in their whole lives. Again, they made a big fire, and the mother said, "Sit still there, children. If you get tired, you can go to sleep. We're going into the forest to cut wood. In the evening, when we're ready to go home, we'll come and get you." So, when lunchtime came, Gretel shared her bread with Hansel because he'd sprinkled it all on the road. Then they fell asleep. The evening came and went, but no one came for the poor children. When they woke up, it was dark, dark night again. Hansel tried to comfort his little sister. "Wait a little while, Gretel," he said. "When the moon comes up, we'll be able to see the breadcrumbs I scattered, and they'll show us the way home." So, when the moon rose, all big and bright, they got up. But, oh no! They couldn't find a single crumb of bread. Not one! Why? Because all the little birds that live in the woods and in the fields, tweet, tweet, had come and eaten them all up. Peck, 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 gone. Hansel thought they might find the way anyway, but they couldn't. They walked all that night and all the next day, from morning till evening, but they just couldn't find their way out of the woods. And they were so hungry. All they had to eat were a few teeny tiny berries they found on bushes. They were so tired, their legs felt like wobbly jelly. They couldn't drag themselves along anymore. So they lay down under a big tree and fell fast asleep. It was now the third morning since they'd left their father's house. They kept trying to get back, but instead, they just got deeper and deeper into the woods. If help didn't come soon, they would surely starve. Oh dear! Around noon, they saw a beautiful snow-white bird sitting on a branch. It was singing so sweetly, "Tweedledee, tweedledoo," that they stopped to listen. And when it finished its song, the bird spread its wings and flew a little way in front of them. Then it waited. They followed it, and it flew a little more, and they followed, until they came to a little house. The bird landed on the roof, and when they got closer, they gasped. The house was built of bread, and the roof, it was made of cake, and the windows, oh, they were sparkly clear sugar. "Wow," said Hansel, "let's eat. This will be a yummy meal. I'll eat a piece of the roof, Gretel, and you can have some of the window. That will taste super sweet." So Hansel reached up high and crunch. He broke off a bit of the cake roof just to see how it tasted. And Gretel stood by the window and crunch munch. She started nibbling on the sugary glass. Yum! Then they heard a tiny thin voice call out from inside. "Nibble, nibble, little mouse, who's nibbling on my house?" And the children answered, "Never mind, it's just the breeze, blowing through the rustling trees." Which wasn't very honest, was it? And they went right on eating. Hansel thought the roof tasted amazing, so he pulled down a huge piece. And Gretel popped out a whole round window pane and sat down to munch on it. Yum! Suddenly, creak, the door opened, and an old woman came out, leaning on a crutch. Hansel and Gretel were so scared. gasp! They dropped the cake and sugar they were holding. But the old woman just nodded her head and smiled, a funny kind of smile, and said, "Ah, my dear children, how did you get here? You must come inside and stay with me. You won't be any trouble at all." So she took each of them by the hand and led them into her little house. And there, wow, they found a wonderful meal all laid out. Milk and pancakes with sugar, apples, and nuts. After that, she showed them 2 little soft white beds. Hansel and Gretel laid down on them and thought, "This is like heaven." But, the old woman, even though she was acting so kind, was actually a wicked witch. She tricked children, and she had built that yummy bread house just to trap them. When she got them inside, she used to, this is horrible, cook them and eat them. And that was a party day for her. Yikes! The old witch's eyes were red, and she couldn't see very far, but she had a super-duper sense of smell, like an animal. She knew right away when children were near. When she knew Hansel and Gretel were coming, she cackled a nasty laugh, "Hee-hee-hee-hee," and said, "I've got them. They won't escape me." Early the next morning, before the children were even awake, she got up. She looked at them sleeping so peacefully with their round, rosy cheeks. She muttered to herself, "What a fine, yummy treat I shall have." Then, with her wrinkly, bony hand, she grabbed Hansel. She dragged him to a little shed and locked him behind a strong metal gate. He could shout and yell and scream all he wanted, "Help! Let me out!" But it was no good. Then she went back to Gretel and shook her awake. "Get up, lazy bones," she shrieked. "Go get water and cook something delicious for your brother. He's outside in the shed, and he needs to get fat. And when he's fat enough, I'm gonna eat him." Gretel started to cry and cry, big sobbing tears, but it was no use. She had to do what the wicked witch told her. So the best food was cooked for poor Hansel, while Gretel, she only got crab shells to eat. Imagine that. Every morning, the old witch would shuffle out to the little shed and call, "Hansel, stretch out your finger. Let me feel if you're getting fat yet." But Hansel was clever. He would hold out a little bone instead of his finger. The old woman, with her bad eyesight, couldn't see it properly. She thought it was Hansel's finger and wondered, why isn't he getting any fatter? After 4 whole weeks, Hansel still seemed so thin. The witch lost her patience. She couldn't wait any longer. "Now then, Gretel," she screeched at the little girl, "hurry up, get more water. Fat or thin, I don't care. Tomorrow I'm gonna cook Hansel and eat him." Oh, poor Gretel. How awful it was to fetch the water. Tears streamed down her face. She cried, "Someone please help us. If only the wild animals had eaten us in the woods. At least we would have died together." "Stop your blubbering," snapped the old woman. "It won't help you one bit." Early the next morning, Gretel had to get up, make the fire, and fill the big pot. "We'll first do some baking," said the old woman. "I've already heated the oven and the dough is ready." She pushed poor Gretel towards the oven. Flames were already licking out from inside. "Whoosh! Creep in," said the witch, "and see if it's hot enough, so the bread will bake nicely." And once Gretel was inside, the witch planned to slam the door shut, bake her, and then eat her too. Oh, that sneaky witch! But Gretel was smart. She knew what the witch was planning. I don't know how to do it," she said innocently. "How do I get in?" "You silly goose," cackled the old woman. "The opening is big enough. Look, even I could get in." And she bent down and stuck her own head into the oven's mouth to show Gretel. Quick as a flash, Gretel gave her a big push. Shove! The witch tumbled right inside. Gretel slammed the heavy iron door shut and bolted it with the bar. Clang! Oh, how the witch howled and screamed in there. But Gretel ran away as fast as her legs could carry her and left the wicked witch to sizzle and pop and burn all up. Poof! Gretel ran straight to Hansel. She flung open the shed door and cried, "Hansel, we're free! The wicked witch is dead!" Then Hansel flew out of that shed like a bird from its cage when the door is opened. Oh, how happy they were! They hugged each other, they danced around, they kissed each other. Yay! And since they had nothing more to fear, they explored the whole Wicked Witch's house. And in every corner, guess what? There were chests full of pearls and shiny, sparkly jewels. "Wow," said Hansel, "this is way better than shiny pebbles." And he filled his pockets up. Gretel thought she'd like to take some treasure home too, so she filled her apron full. "Now," said Hansel, "let's get out of this wicked witch's wood, if we can." When they had walked for a few hours, they came to a huge lake. It was so wide. "Oh no," said Hansel, "we can't get across this. I don't see any stepping stones,
And there's no bridge. And there's no boat either," said Gretel. "But look, here comes a beautiful white duck. Maybe if I ask her, she'll help us." So she called out, "Duck, duck, here we are, Hansel and Gretel from afar. No bridge or boat, oh dear, oh me. Carry us over, please, pretty ducky." And the duck came waddling right over. Hansel climbed onto her back and told his sister to hop on too. "No," answered Gretel, "that would be too heavy for the nice duck. We can go one at a time." And that's what they did. First Hansel, then Gretel. After that, they walked on happily, and the woods started to look more and more familiar, until, at last, far away, they saw their father's house. Then they ran, faster and faster. They burst through the door and threw their arms around their father's neck. The poor man hadn't had a single happy moment since he'd left his children in the woods. But the stepmother, guess what? She was gone. Maybe she ran away, or maybe something else happened, but she wasn't there anymore. And when Gretel opened her apron, whoosh, pearls and jewels scattered all over the room. And Hansel pulled handful after handful of treasure out of his pockets. Then all their worries were over. They lived together in great joy, happy ever after. And now for a little rhyme. My story is done. Look, a mouse is on the run. If you can catch him quick as a flash, a furry hat you can make in a dash. The end. Wasn't that a great story? Good job listening.